we immediately started to implement Petra coaching habits, although to get it company-wide took several quarterly sessions. And it's ongoing. We're still doing it. We've got a large team too, and we've got some people who work in the warehouse. We've got some people who do not speak English, it's not their primary language, that we haven't got them fully looped in to doing daily huddles, but we're still working on it and planning on it.
It's a pretty simple process. The problem is you're not going to do it unless you have someone, Andy or one of his teammates, getting on you to do it. And once you do implement it in your organization, you speak a different language. Everyone in the organization kind of thinks differently about things. You'll solve issues so much easier with this program than you would without. And that includes, startups to companies that have been around like us for several years.
You've got to have someone at the top that's continuing to drive, we're going to do this, we're going to do this, we're going to do this. If it hadn't been for Andy pushing us, we were having a huddle 3 days a week. You need to have a huddle 5 days a week. And for us going back every single day, we're going to meet at 10:55 every single day for 15 minutes, and then we're going to do our quarterly. So you've got to have somebody at the top that is leading by example and pushing that this is going to happen, or it won't survive.
We have a remote office, and that team dials in every day for our daily huddle too. So they get to experience what our Nashville office experiences, and quality of life wise, I mean we huddle at 9:09. We go around the huddle, and it probably takes less than 15 minutes to get through the entire huddle. You know what everybody on your team's doing for that day. You set priorities, and then I also have heard how hard it is, and it is hard, I guess, but at the same time, if starting a business is really hard, right? And I would say implementing this into your culture of your company is much less difficult than starting a business.
You either have a culture by design or you have a culture by default. And we had a culture by default. And we were growing, things looked good from a revenue standpoint, but from a cultural standpoint, we looked really ugly. So we had to get very intentional in working on it. And it ultimately transformed our business. I mean, it was something we had to get very intentional about in terms of working on the culture. And Andy had said the problem is your revenues are growing at 30 to 40% per year, but your people and your processes aren't going at 30 to, they're not going at the same pace. And that was exactly right. So we had to get really intentional about working on the business as a company and not just in the business on a day-to-day basis, if that makes sense.
One thing I'll add is that when Gary and Mandy came to our place in August, I realized that we were doing a lot of things fairly well, but I was doing them myself and then one key person in our company. And so it was myself and then Tina in the office who does all of our financials, or myself and Chris who's one of our account managers, or myself and Megan who handles all the administrative stuff. And there was this lack of cohesiveness that I had the correct meeting set up, but it was always me and one person. And so Chris had no idea what corresponded with the meeting with Megan, and nobody knew about the financials except for me and Tina. And so that brought about a whole new awareness that a whole lot more people need to know about these key numbers and key things that are driving the business than just me and one person kind of in these departmental meetings. So bringing everybody together has brought about a whole new awareness for everything that drives the company's success.
So when we started, it was just my business partner and I and Andy sitting around the table, and we actually very shortly after hired our first employee. So we had 3 of us that we went around a daily huddle and we talked about what we were doing. We stood up, we didn't sit down. It was very formal. Went through the entire process. It was pretty quickly after that we hired a couple more. So, and we just continued to grow and implement it from there. But we did everything when we were a team of 2 that we do now that we're a team of 25. There's no difference in what we do or how we manage the process.
I fought this. Not that I knew we needed to do it, but You know, I want to tell people what to do. I wasn't great at the team thing, but I have changed because I learned things from the team now that I probably would not have known if we weren't doing this, and it's made me change the way I think and act with them, and it's made me better at what I do, and it was not easy, and I still dread that day only because it's challenging for me, but at the end of the quarterly planning session day, I am very pleased with where we're going and what we've gotten to, but having everybody's opinions thrown out and discussion and working these things, I was not used to that. It was the hierarchy way. It was, this is what we're gonna do, go work on this, and you can't do it that way. It's changed me, and it's changed me for the better, and now I'm happier. So, and the employees are happier. So I know it sounds like we're saying it's hard, but it becomes second nature. But once you do start the huddle process, nobody wants to come to the huddle and announce in front of everybody that they haven't done their homework. So that's the key to me that starts getting everybody working on their rocks and on their projects and getting things done, because you have to report on it in front of everybody every day, and it makes you think about, you know what, I need to work on what's important, not just putting out the fires. So once that piece of the puzzle starts, the other stuff starts to fall into place.
If there's one thing I would do differently if we were starting this over again today, it would be to move the importance of this process and in particular the kind of the cultural elements of it into the emphasis in our hiring process much sooner. So many of us struggle through our businesses because of bad hiring decisions. Maybe we've hired on aptitude or experience, and we've oftentimes neglected attitude and cultural fit. And I think it was a transformative time at DSI over the last, I'd say, 18 months, as we truly integrated the cultural fit, the attitude, the match to our Rockefeller Habits culture into our hiring and interview process, and made that a non-negotiable standard. It has really helped our business grow in a way that creates less heartburn.